Alright, so now we're going to do a pocket off of a denim jacket. So it's got the flap. I don't have a buttonhole here or a stud, but what you'd have to do, this fabric, these two layers are fine if you're doing a buttonhole here, and it'd be a keyhole buttonhole. You'd probably need, if you had a tack button there, you'd need to put a little square of fabric behind it because that's only one layer there at the moment. That'd be the only thing I'd suggest because it'd be up there. Actually,
Is that only one layer?
that facing goes down there. Actually, you probably could extend that facing down a couple of centimetres too, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be good to have that
Yeah.
extra fabric in there to support the metal.
Yeah, so you'd probably
Tough,
add,
yeah.
at least an extra 2 centimetres onto that little inside layer there. Anyway, all right, so this is the flap. Now, one thing that I've realised recently, doing lots of these angular pocket flaps and pockets and stuff, is that it's sometimes a bit hard to know where to stop when you get to this point so that you can then pivot around. So what I thought we could do is actually just go off the edge. So you're doing it. And that way, because the only problem, well, actually, it's not really a problem. The only thing with this is that if you're doing this, it means that you can't cut the corners off. Because if you cut the corners off, then the corner is going to fray. So when you bag these out, you have to do the trick where you fold the corners in, and then poke it through, so you keep it intact. Which is what I generally do with mine anyway, even if I do sew them the other way. But if you're going to use this technique, it's sort of imperative that you don't trim that excess off. What do you think of that, Libby?
Yeah, I like it.
And it just means that you get really nice, sharp corners that are exactly the size that you want them to be.
It's good in that white fabric.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Maybe.
You'll probably work in most stones too.
Well, you do, yeah. You give it a go and see what happens. And the other thing too is that you can do, you can use chalk to draw the lines, so you can follow the lines. There's those pens that fade or that you can, like wash out. I'm doing this. Oops, that's not good. Went too far that time. Yes, I'm doing this twice sewing it, but remember that we've also got a twin needle machine that you could use to sew these with as well. It takes a bit of getting into the swing of it because you have to, figure out the corners. But once you do, if you're making a whole denim jacket, it would be probably something that it'd be good to have a go at.
You'd often use a top stitching thread too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just using a regular thread. Yeah. So now we've just got this central part here. So that's this. So we've got the outside bits and then the middle bit and then another outside bit here. So we're just sewing those as 1 centimetre single ounces. Okay, now I have to overlock these seams and I also have to overlock this bit, so I'll be back in a minute. So now we're doing this little cutout bit at the top of the pocket, and it sets a centimetre down from the finished seam, which means it has to sit down 2 centimetres from the finished edge. Okay, so it's just a centimetre from the edge here and then down 2 centimetres. and 1 centimetre down, 2 centimetres. And then we've got this, we've got a notch which indicates the middle there. Just make sure, there we go. So we're just going to do a back tap, come down to that point, go across to the other side. Okay, so now we're going to go into this point. And then we want to turn that to the inside. Okay, so there's that pocket opening. Now I need to sew this in place, so I'm going to scoot away and overlock this bit, and I'll be back in a minute.
Where's that going, Mark?
That's the bit that goes inside the bag, so it's this bit here.
Oh, okay.
On the
yeah,
inside.
that's the pocket. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So I've got my pocket bag on the inside, I've overlocked around the edges, and now I've turned to the inside of the garment, and I've just centralized that pocket bag over the opening there, and just to see where it comes down the middle, so it will be off a tiny bit here, so just make sure that it's centered in between those two seams. Now I'm doing this from the inside so I can see what I'm actually doing. But when we turn it over, so I'm just sewing this with the regular thread, so it's very obvious and nice to look at. If you're wanting, because it's a denim jacket, if you're wanting to do it with a denim top stitching thread, then you could actually sew over the top, you know, like from this side, with the top stitching thread in the machine itself. Yeah, that
or
way.
Otherwise, just find a way to line it up.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You could,
yeah,
you could, you know, otherwise you could, you know, just feel it on the inside here and put a chalk line, you know, on the outside so you can follow that line as you stitch it in the top stitching thread, you know, like for your first go, rather than having to do this and then stitching on top of it again.
The calico is good because you can actually see the shadow of the pocket under it, but of course with denim you won't see that.
Exactly right, yeah. Alright, so now just to finish this off, I'm just putting my pocket flap in position there.
Have you just tacked that down, have you?
Yeah, just onto the seam allowance to hold it in place. And before you sew it on, if you're going to have a buttonhole, you need to do the buttonhole. It's easier to do it before you sew the button, before you sew the flap in place. And the same with the button. You know, that's going to.
I mean, in production they would have them marked, and they would all be done before the sewing's done.
Yeah, actually that's true, because if
that's quite tricky to
you
get
put
in
the
there
tack
now.
button there, do the tack button before you sew the pocket bag in place, because then you'll only have the one layer of fabric to deal with. Yeah. And then what we're doing here is so this would be the yoke of the jacket, but we've just got it as a strip for the sample. So then we'll press that up. So this would need overlocking on this edge here, and then you would do your double row of stitching like on the sample here, or the front of your yoke, and that would finish your pocket off for you.